What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast, the podcast where we suck in the mornings and my technology hates me. But we made it. We're here. So we want to thank you for tuning in, whether you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Overcast, and Radio Public. We just want to thank you, and hello to our new Iceland listener. I saw you on Anchor. I saw that play, whether it was on accident or whatever. Behind the glass, maybe it was a hockey thing you were looking for. Otherwise, you tuned into us, so I thank you for that. Germany, UK, Serbia, now Iceland. We're just filling out all the international countries here. So we just need to get a couple more. I'm a little disappointed that my Asian heritage countries haven't tuned in just yet, but I'm sure we'll get Korea in there somehow. Probably not North Korea. That might be a stretch. But who knows? Maybe Kim Jong-un would like to listen to us one day. Maybe we can. If Dennis Rodman can get through to him, maybe we can too. But we want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you want to follow us on Twitter, for Brandon, at Brandon_Stoll, for myself, at Stephen Priest Jr. Huge show today. Obviously, last show we talked about the NBA, kind of speculated. We thought it was coming back. We thought we might get that confirmation this week, and we did. Yesterday, it was announced. Woj bomb. NBA is returning. The NBA Board of Governors voted Thursday to approve a 22-team format to restart the 2019-20 season. On July 31st in Orlando, Florida, the league announced, sources told ESPN, that the vote was 29-1. Can you guess who that one was? The Portland freaking Trailblazers. Screw off. Hate those guys. Damn it.
Really?
Yes, just screw off. Yes, they were the only ones that voted no against it, but otherwise it passed. Majority vote there. Under the plan, 13 Western Conference teams and 9. The play-in tournament will include the number 8 and number 9 conference. If the 9th seed finishes the regular season within 4 games of 8th. In that case, the number 9 seed would need to beat the number 8 seed twice to earn the playoff berth, while the number 8 would need 1 win from 2 potential games. Teams will begin training in Orlando starting July 9th through the 11th, sources said. A lot there, but what you really need to know is that the NBA is back. We're going to have a format. We're going to have a bit of a shortened regular season, really short, but we're going to have playoffs. Huge news for everybody, especially NBA fans.
Yeah, and I think it's the best way you could possibly do it. I think because you get training camps for a few days. That's a big thing. And then you do get 8 regular season games. And we're going to get to it later, but not everyone's schedule. And I think everyone has to, whoever you're a fan of, especially if you're a Nuggets fan, not everyone's schedule is fair. This whole situation is not fair. Is it really fair for Memphis to have to possibly play 2-3 play-in games? No, it's not, because guess what? They're a game and they're 2.5, 3.5 games ahead of the ninth seed. So most likely, if the regular season would have gone on, they would have held on to it. So to have to play a play-in game, it's not fair. Orlando, they're 5.5 games ahead. If they have to play a play-in game against Washington, is that fair? No, it's not. So none of this is really, it's not going to be perfect, but it's as good as it probably could have gotten, because now we get 8 regular season games, which is mainly for these top teams to kind of get their legs under them, get going again, get used to playing again. And that's why they have a 4 or 5 preseason games in a normal season. You need to kind of get going first, and obviously it takes a little bit longer than that. But I mean, for the most part, these teams have been not playing for it's been 3 months, maybe a little more than 3 months at this point. So you gotta kind of get back into. I mean, we talked about it. Like, I don't think. And one of your concerns was the level of play wouldn't be as high. Well, if you get a few days of training camp, if you get 8 games of regular season play, and your regular season games are against playoff level teams, I think that kind of accelerates it. So I would say by the second round, we're going to be getting high level play from every team. So I think that's where I think this is probably the best case scenario. The only issue is if your star player comes down with the virus. then
Yeah.
you're screwed. If LeBron, knock on wood, if he were to get it, the Lakers are screwed. And that could result into, say, Denver making it to the finals, and then people saying, well, blah, 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 blah. There's a big asterisk to it, right? So that's where it's kind of, I mean, hopefully nothing like that happens. Hopefully this bubble works. But again, I mean, that's the biggest issue with all of this.
And I just got to say that whatever we have to do to protect Nikola Jokic, if we have to keep him in a sanitary Lysol bubble for 24 hours a day, if he has to go and play in one of those bubbles that people knock each other around in, that's what we're going to have to do. Because if he gets sick, the Nuggets are screwed. They're already, kind of at a disadvantage here considering the talent of other teams and having to play these teams. And now you factor in if one of these guys gets sick, then it's 2 weeks, then it's quarantine, then you have to self-isolate.
Yeah.
If 3 or 4 guys on your team get sick, what if a team gets ravished by the virus and there's only like 4 healthy guys? I guess we're just trotting out 4 for 48, fellas. Go out there and try and knock down some threes. Good luck with that. But it's going to be an interesting situation. There's going to be, like you said, a lot of conspiracy theory. I mean,
I think if it were to get to that point, though, that the season would be postponed. I think if it's like maybe a couple or maybe like 3 to 5 players throughout the 22 teams or even 10, I think, it's fine. It depends on what players those are or who they are and how much it would affect the game itself. But I don't think it would be a situation where they stop everything again. It would have to be, like you said, a team or at least a couple teams that were to just get crushed by it, essentially.
Yeah, and I mean it's a weird situation because I mean this is one of the reasons I was so concerned about the NBA coming back too soon. Because I get it. Like everybody else, I want sports back. I want basketball back. I want to see playoff basketball, but it's like if we come back too soon and then say it happens to 2 or 3 teams or 4 teams and it's the majority of teams, then what? Then how do you do it? What if it's the Clippers that are the 2 seed and the Rockets and the Jazz? What if there's 3 teams that have legitimately 3 to 5 cases on each team? Like, how does that impact the level of play? What if it's the Western Conference Finals and LeBron James gets sick with the coronavirus, or Kawhi Leonard? Or what if it's, game 6 of the NBA Finals and we just find out, oh, LeBron tested positive for the coronavirus? Then it's like, this was just my fear, but you know what? We're here. We have basketball back. Hopefully they have the necessary precautions, and I'm sure they do, in place, and testing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, we're just all going into this with our fingers crossed because it's just hoping that everything works out for the best. You mentioned the schedule earlier, and we're going to get back to Jokic because there's some things floating around town around here that I need to get to. Yeah, apparently there's some washboard abs around here, and it's on the big fella, but we'll get to all that. Speaking of schedules, though, the Denver Nuggets, how they're going to do this is they're going to take, they said the last 8 games, but I believe it's whatever your next 8 games were going to be.
Yep.
And then if there was teams in there that were just eliminated due to the format that they chose, they're obviously not going to play them. So for the Nuggets, it'll be at the ats don't matter. San Antonio, Los Angeles, Lakers, Clippers, Oklahoma City, Toronto. You're going to skip over Chicago. You're going to go to Miami, San Antonio, OKC. Woof. Okay. I mean, like you said, each team has their own struggles. Some teams do have an easier schedule than others. I think I saw it was either Utah or maybe OKC's schedule is a little bit more lenient than what the Nuggets is. But I mean, they're going to get tested right off the bat. Yep. LeBron James, a Spurs team that isn't, what it once was, but it's still a tough team that plays hard for Pop. They still have LaMarcus Aldridge. They still have DeMar DeRozan. OKC was playing on fire before the season got postponed. You have 2 games against them, so we'll see how that picks up. Chris Paul is always a tough matchup. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They have a solid young team. And then Miami's just, a hard-nosed physical team with Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, all those guys. And then you get Toronto, who that's like Denver Nuggets East, honestly. No matter whatever happens, that's like the team that resembles the Nuggets. They don't have any major stars. That's fine. We'll just field a really good team. a lot of solid teams, hard teams in there. The Nuggets are going to have their work cut out for them as soon as this stuff gets going.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. And we talked about this in the last show, but I just feel like this team, they played down to their competition, and they were, at least in the normal regular season before everything got stopped, they were just coasting. They were, and it's because they were on pace to win 54, 55 games, get a 2 or 3 seed, and they were okay with it. And they were saving as much of their energy as they could for the playoffs, because we saw what happened when they played all out every single game in the regular season. They got tired. They couldn't do it. And it didn't help that they got 2 7-game series, and one of those games went to 4 overtimes. They just ran out of gas. And you could tell in that game 7, a lot of shots were short. Jokic was done. Jamal was tired. Like, everyone was just done. And unfortunately for them, Portland had a little bit more in the tank, because I don't think Portland really played hard every single game last year. So now they've had some time to rest. Now it's time to, okay, let's turn that switch on. Let's go. And this is going to come down to this, the rest of the season and the playoffs. It's going to come down to who can turn on that switch faster. We know the Lakers are going to be able to turn that switch right on and go. We know the Clippers are going to be able to do that because Kawhi, Paul George, they're ready to go. They're healthy. They're going to play every game. Well, possibly. At least in the regular.
Kawhi Leonard, he had 3 months to load manage. I better not see him miss one of these damn 8 games. If I'm Steve Ballmer, I'm like, you had 3 months. You better play every damn game now. You had a 3-month hiatus. I don't want to hear nothing, you damn robot. Whatever you got to do and reboot yourself, do it, because you better go out there and win it. There is no excuse. That might be the team that is, or the player that is under the most pressure. I mean, obviously LeBron is under pressure to win. It's LeBron. But I mean, with Kawhi and everything that surrounds him with this load management, because he's really made this thing popular. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't win it and they have a good enough team to do it, that's a huge mark in my book on Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah. And so, like, they're going to be able to turn that switch on, and the Bucks are going to be able to turn that switch on. Okay. So there's the main 3. Let's look at the West. Out of these teams, who do you think can just turn that switch on and go? Denver, Utah, Oklahoma City, Houston, Dallas. I mean, I'll just probably throw in those because that's probably all those teams are within 4 games. So, do you know Denver in these 8 regular season games could fall to 7th?
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good teams.
I could easily see them going. I mean, it sounds extreme, but I would not be shocked if there was a scenario where the Denver Nuggets didn't win a game, or if they only won 1 to 3 games out of this. I would be a little surprised, but I wouldn't be completely shocked if they went 5-3 or 4-4.
I wouldn't be shocked if they went 7-1, but at the same time,
I would be.
At the same time, I wouldn't be shocked if they went 1-7. I mean, It can go either way.
What's more likely? What's more likely?
I think what's more likely. I think they go. Honestly, I think that it's just 4-4. I think it's right in the middle.
I think if you get 4-4, 5-3, you stay at least within the top 4 seeds. I'm fine with it. I can live with that. But yeah, out of those teams, if they go out and throw up a stinker, like, oh my God, I don't even want to watch the playoffs.
Out of all those teams, though, I mean, do you trust any of those teams to just be able to turn the switch on and go right from the jump?
That's the thing. So I don't trust Utah, mainly because they seem like a hit and miss team. They also lost Bojan. Was it which Bogdanovich plays over there? There's like 15 of these Bogdanovich guys in the league, and they all can shoot. If your name is Bogdanovich, you automatically can shoot. That is my conclusion on someone named Bogdanovich. But whoever they have, whichever one they have, he's out for the season. So that's a huge loss.
The last 10, they went 5-5.
Okay, so that's a huge loss for them because he's a shooter. He's a guy kind of like Joe Ingles, really stretches the floor for them at that 3 spot. He's not obviously super athletic, but he's a great spot up shooting guy. So that's gonna hurt. I don't trust them to do it. I've already said it. I don't trust the Nuggets to do it. I think the Nuggets are a good team, great team. I don't think they have that switch where they can just be like, let's go run through, especially these teams. If it's a bad team, sure, but not you can't not show up for 2 quarters against the Lakers and then hope that a quarter that you are on fire gets you back in the game. It might, but I'm going to lean towards not. I would say the teams that I would trust are Houston because James Harden can score in a hurry. I would trust Dallas because Luka can also score in a hurry, and I just think he impacts the game in so many more ways than just scoring the basketball. And then obviously the Lakers, Clippers can do it as well because they're just that talented. But out of all those teams, I mean, if I had to choose, OKC, I don't think they're talented enough to just have a switch mentality to turn it on and off. I think they have to come to compete, and I think they do because they have a dog in Chris Paul, and he's going to bring it every night. But I would say probably Houston, I trust, and Dallas out of all those teams in terms of that switch mentality of let's go, let's turn it on and fire on all cylinders.
I'll say this about Denver, and I get where you're coming from as far as not being able to trust them. But
I've been hurt. I've been hurt in the past.
Here's the thing. A lot of these struggles have come against bad teams. And when they do, and when they are, like, they lost to Cleveland, right? January 11th, they lost to Cleveland. 111 to 103.
I think they got swept by Cleveland this year, didn't they?
Or
they lost at least 2 of them because they lost at home and they lost on the road.
Yeah, they've been swept. Let's see. Actually, yeah, they've been swept. But so that game they lost. The very next day they had to play. They had a back-to-back. Guess who they had to play?
Was it Cleveland at home that they lost to, or the Cleveland on the road one?
I'm looking at the one at home. They had a home and home back-to-back.
Ooh, well, I'm assuming it's a tough team. I mean, was it one of the Western Conference teams?
It was the Clippers.
Oh, and they won that game.
And they won that game 114 to 104.
But Paul George didn't play that game, if I remember correctly.
Still, I mean, you turn it on.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It's just that's the thing is, for me, I mean, they lose to Cleveland in March, 104 to 102. Then the very next game, they go and play Milwaukee, and they beat them 109 to 95. So
they obliterated Milwaukee in Milwaukee. Like they were up.
That one was at home when they won.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, when they beat Milwaukee in Milwaukee, that was a 7-player team. And
was it that? No, that
right?
7-player team was in Utah. That's that game.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Because we were talking about, and that game was just fantastic.
That Milwaukee game, though, they were shorthanded still.
I think that was in that same stretch, though.
Yeah, it was in because let's see, that Milwaukee game was January 31st. That Utah game was 6 days later, because that was the 5 games or 4 games in 6 days, or 5 games in 7 days, something stupid like that. But that Milwaukee game, they won 127-115 on the road, and Will Barton had 24, Jokic had 15, 10, and 9. Everyone had double figures. There was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the bench had Juancho, Dozier, and Beasley, Porter. That was your bench. Plumlee was out.
Malik.
Looks like Jamal was out. Gary Harris was out. Paul Millsap was out. Will Barton played. So you had 3 starters out, 9 guys, and you beat Milwaukee, who had everyone. They had everyone. And Giannis had 31 points, 16 rebounds, and 9 assists.
God, that guy is stupid good.
But other than that, I mean, Middleton had 24 and 9. But other than that, yeah, I mean, they didn't really have anyone else. So my point is, Denver has struggled against bad teams because they don't play hard against those teams. Last year they did. And people are wondering, well, why? Well, they ran out of gas in the playoffs. And I hate to make that excuse, but they're not stupid. I mean, there's a reason why. Go back and look at all of LeBron's teams in Miami and in Cleveland. The 8 years that he made it to the NBA Finals. How many times was he a number 1 seed? How many times was he a number 2 seed? Not a lot. So even with those great teams, he had Kyrie, he had D Wade, he had Bosh, Kevin Love, all those guys, and they were not the number one seed. I would say not even half the time, probably twice. So there's a reason. Those teams should have been one seeds. There's a reason why the Toronto Raptors, who do so great in the regular season without Kawhi, and fall on their face in the playoffs. They got swept by a 4-seed Cleveland Cavalier team who had no Kyrie. That team was complete garbage, and they got swept by that Cleveland team. Swept. So there's a reason why teams play well in the regular season and fall on their face. We've seen it in Denver a million times. There's a reason why teams don't get a top 1 or 2 seed and they get to the NBA Finals, because they have a guy like LeBron who can turn it on, or they have a team that can just turn it on. And so when I'm looking at this Denver Nuggets team, we don't know. We really don't know if they can turn it on because we haven't seen it yet. We saw them play really hard in the regular season and get a 2 seed, hold on to a 1 seed for most of the season. Remember, Malone coached the All-Star game. So they had a 1 seed. They had the 1 seed at the All-Star break. So they played hard every single night. And they just ran out of gas in the second round in 2 7-game series. So now let's take it easy in the regular season. Maybe not play as hard against bad teams. Try and turn it on late in those games. Against good teams, okay, let's turn it on. You beat Milwaukee twice. You beat the Clippers twice, I want to say. You beat the Lakers once. Maybe once. But the one time you did lose, you lost in overtime 120 to 116 right before the All-Star break. So I'm looking at all the times that they played a really good team. They either won or lost close. There's not a lot of those blowouts that they got blown out by good teams. I mean, there's a couple, I'm sure, but I'm looking. I mean,
the only one that comes to mind is that Clippers one that was in LA, where they just got completely manhandled. And I think that was either on ESPN or TNT, and they just did not come to play.
Yeah, they lost 132 to 103. That was after the All-Star break. But other than that, the only one I'm really seeing, there's a Dallas one right when everything happened, but I think at that point, whoever was on the road and on any of those teams that night probably lost. Like at that point, everyone was like, okay, what the hell is going on? So I don't really count that one because that was one of the most bizarre nights I've ever experienced. So I'm sure it's one of the most bizarre nights for any of those guys. The only other one, they lost to LA at home 105 to 96. It's a 9-point loss. I don't really remember how close that game was throughout the game.
Was that the early?
Yeah, that was
game?
early in the season. It was December 3rd.
Yeah, so I went to that game. So that was a game where the Nuggets were within striking distance a lot. I think they were up at one point in the first, and LeBron just had a night. They couldn't get things going. I mean, it's typical Denver Nuggets stuff. I mean, they couldn't find it on the offensive end when they needed it. They didn't really help out Jokic. I think he might have had some foul trouble early in that game as well, if I remember correctly. But that was just one of those games. They didn't get obliterated, but they had chances to where they could have overtaken the game and took control. But I mean, LeBron, every time they were about to do that and there was momentum, LeBron would get off the bench and come back in and do what LeBron does. So it wasn't a terrible game. But
Yeah.
the only time they did beat the Lakers was in LA without LeBron. So
was that really without LeBron?
Yeah, it was without LeBron. He sat that night. So
yeah, they won 128-104.
And yes, each time they played the Lakers, it's not like and lost. They haven't been blown out. Now in that game, in the first game, they were down double digits a couple times. They were down like 10 to 12 a few times throughout that game, but they kept fighting back. And they weren't getting manhandled necessarily, but I just think it's a bad matchup. LA is such a large team.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of defensive length, and I mean it's a LeBron built team. I mean, they're shooting around him, there's defense, and it just allows him to take control. Right. So and that's a team that really gives the Nuggets issues.
Yeah, and they give most teams issues. I mean, when you throw out Anthony Davis, JaVale McGee, and Dwight Howard, I mean, well,
dude, Dwight Howard killed them that first game.
Yeah,
he killed them that first game. They had no answer for Dwight Howard.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you have 3 7-footers. I mean, they're you're just it's hard to stop. But yeah, I mean that's the thing is for me, I get since the All-Star break, they were bad. They were really really bad. You lose to Oklahoma City 113-101. You beat Minnesota, you beat Detroit, you lose to the Clippers by 29. You beat the Raptors, you lose to Golden State. Then you barely beat Charlotte by 2. You lose to Cleveland. You beat Milwaukee, and then obviously the Dallas game happened. So not great, but at the same time, I think it was you entered the All-Star break, you relaxed, and it just they weren't ready to go, and they weren't willing to. And we always talk about it. That March, the whole month of March, and the early the really beginning of April, well, maybe not even April. The whole month of March is usually the month where teams just take off. Like it's their month off of the regular season. It's like, all right, we're just gonna coast, especially those good teams. And once it's April, it's like, okay, let's get playoff ready. It just happens. It happens to almost every team. You just go in this lull, like in March. It's a weird month. You know, certain teams just win a lot of games. Certain teams, it's a lot of inconsistency because at this point you're in games 60, 70, and you're just not, you know, you're not in the thick of it. You're just bleh, and it's a long season. And so I hate making these excuses for Denver, but every time I look at their schedule and look at the teams they lost to bad teams. And that's not because they're not talented enough. It's because they didn't play hard. And do I trust them to play hard in the playoffs? Yes, because I saw it. I've seen it happen. And the reason why they lost, in my opinion, the reason why they lost that Game 7 was they were tired. So I'm going to trust that they're going to be ready to go when it's time to play. Because I've seen it, and it's not just the playoffs last year, it's this year. When they had 7 guys, they beat a playoff team. When they had 3 starters out of the game, they beat the best team in the league. They've beat the best team in the league twice. So I'm gonna trust that. The way I see the schedule, I'm gonna trust it. Now, am I saying that they can make a run to the finals? No, they can't beat the Lakers. They won't be able to beat the Lakers, and I don't think any team will be able to beat the Lakers. I think it's gonna be the Lakers pretty easily, to be honest, because the one guy
Really?
that you can trust the most out of any player in the league to go out there after 3 months of not playing and go and win you games is LeBron.
Clippers had their number during the regular season, though.
When it comes down to it, many teams have had LeBron's number in the regular season and they got swept or they lost in 5. So I think I don't think that this will be really that close, to be honest. And do I think that Denver can get to the conference finals? I think there's a scenario. I do. I think they can get there. But they're gonna have to go through the Clippers. And I don't know if they really. It's funny when you look.
I don't think that happens.
When you look at that Clipper team, though, I don't think if the Nuggets get playoff Jokic, the Jokic that we saw last year in the playoffs, and they get a Jamal who's a little bit more consistent and plays like he did in the playoffs, I don't think that the Clippers match up well against the Nuggets. The matchups. I don't think they have anyone that can stop Jokic. I don't think they really have. If Jamal is playing the way he did in the playoffs, the good Jamal, the consistent Jamal, I mean, I think that they match up a little bit better. Now, do I think they can win that series? No, they can't win the series easily. It's going to come down to a 7-game series or 6 or 7 games, but I wouldn't be shocked if Denver came out on top. But again, it's going to take a lot. It's going to
Yeah.
take Jokic to play, average 25 to 27 points per game, 13 to 15 rebounds, and 8 to 10 assists. It's going to take Jamal averaging 20 plus points. It's going to take Will Barton playing well and averaging 18 to 20 points a game. Gary Harris is going to have to hit shots and play great defense. Paul Millsap is going to have to be healthy and play great defense. So everything has to click against the Clippers, but they can do it. If everything clicked against the Lakers, they still wouldn't be able to beat the Lakers. What I'm saying, though, is if everything clicks for them against the Clippers, they can beat the Clippers. I just think they match up a little bit better.
That's where I think we have to realize, though, if you have to preface everything with if,
exactly,
then it's likely not going to happen.
Right.
I don't think there's any way the Nuggets make it past the second round. I think they could win a first round series, and maybe a lot of Nuggets fans will hate that. But you look at the two teams that they're going to have to either get in the second round, it's going to be the Clippers or the Lakers. Mm-hmm. Unless something jaw-dropping happens, then okay, and a ball bounces the right way, sure. Now, do I think the Nuggets could actually no, I would give them 0% chance against both of those LA teams. I don't think that the Nuggets could match up with the Clippers on their best day. I think they could probably get 1, maybe 2 games max. But like you said, Jokic is going to have to be between 25 to 27 every night. He's going to have to get at least 10 assists, and he's going to have to be a force on the boards. In terms of anyone stopping Jokic, no, the Clippers don't necessarily have that. But they have guys that can make it tough on them. Zubac, he brings length on that team. You have a guy like Harrell, who just is one of those irritators who can be physical with Jokic. I don't like that. And then you look at if Jamal can be consistent. Well, Jamal's going to have to bring in 25 of his own. Mm-hmm. And I trust Lou Williams more to provide 25 for his team every night than I do Jamal Murray. And that's the thing. I just think that team is just too deep, and they're a team full of just dogs. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Patrick Beverley, Montrezl Harrell, whichever Morris brother that they have out there. I never can tell them apart, so I don't know. Whichever one they have, that's just a team that is just on a mission, and they're led by a cyborg. So it's not to say that the Nuggets couldn't get 1 or 2 games. I would say I'd pencil them in for 1 game. And that's maybe not even, because now you're taking away the home court advantage. Mm-hmm. So I think for a team like the Nuggets, who as a younger team would really feed off that Denver crowd, maybe they do get swept. I don't know, maybe. But it wouldn't be shocking if they got 1 game. It's a situation where I just don't see the Nuggets getting to where they want to be, just because the teams ahead of them are so talented. And even if they made it to the playoffs and they stayed in that 3rd seed and they somehow managed to beat a Houston or a Dallas, I would still feel the same way, even if it was just normal situation. Because, I mean, you still would either have to go to LA to play the Clippers or LA to play the Lakers. And neither of those teams, I think the Nuggets can hang with right now.
Now, these 8 games are going to be really interesting because, again, what we talked about earlier, what teams are going to come out firing right out of the gate. So if you look at the Clippers schedule, they are only, they're only 3 games out of the 4th seed. There is a situation where they could drop. Now, look, it's crazy, but in the situation, you got to hope that Denver stays at a 2 or 3, and Utah jumps up to a 2 or 3. So, and Utah's one of those teams I believe have one of those easy schedules. So, say Utah goes 6-2, 7-1. Well, let's look at the Clippers schedule. They have New Orleans. Okay, well, they should be able to win that one. But that's the first game. So, I mean, that's actually kind of a coin flip, because that first game for all of these teams with no crowd, no home court advantage, that's going to be a test for every team. For the Lakers, for Milwaukee, for every team. Doesn't matter who it is. It's going to be who comes out just playing hard. And if the Clippers don't come out playing hard and New Orleans does, then New Orleans is going to win that game. So, again, it's for every team, but that's going to be an interesting one. Then they got Dallas. Dallas is going to be a tough game for them. Denver. I mean, maybe Denver comes out hot and they win that game. Then they got Phoenix. They should be able to win that one. Then the next one would be Oklahoma City, I believe.
I think wouldn't Brooklyn be in that?
I don't think Brooklyn made it. One team from the East made it outside of the playoffs, right? Or no, is Brooklyn in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think Brooklyn is in the playoff, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, well then they got Brooklyn twice.
If let me double check.
I thought Brooklyn was out of the playoffs, but maybe they are in.
Because they weren't that. Yeah, they were 7th seed.
Okay, so then they would play Brooklyn first, then.
Yeah.
And then.
Which might be without Kyrie.
Yeah, well, that's a weird situation too. Have they said if KD is gonna play?
I don't think he will. I don't think he will, just because, I don't know where he's at with his rehab with his Achilles injury,
right?
And then since he already had the virus, I guess he's technically. I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming he's probably somewhat immune to it now. So I don't know if that maybe is the biggest concern, but I just don't know where he's at with his rehab.
Okay.
So I would assume not. But Kyrie was hurt right before things got stopped too. So I don't know where he's at in terms of, I think it was a shoulder issue or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know if he's playing.
So that's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's your first 6 then. And within your first 6, you got Brooklyn, New Orleans, Dallas, Denver, Phoenix, Brooklyn again. And then it's Oklahoma City, or no, Indiana, right? Because Detroit didn't make it. Charlotte didn't make it. So Indiana would be 7. Oklahoma City would be 8. So I don't think that's the hardest schedule ever. But again, say Kawhi doesn't decide to play all 8 games. Say the Clippers decide to screw around and they fall. There's a situation where they could fall. This whole situation, playing in Orlando, no fans, any of that, we don't know. It could really hurt the Clippers. It could really hurt the Lakers. We don't know. For all we know, Denver could be just fine with it. The Lakers, Clippers hate it, and Denver beats them because they just like it better.
Well, and that's the thing too.
This is
so unpredictable because also, you're giving these guys a few weeks to get ready, right? But still, you're asking them, okay, you're getting a few weeks to get ready, 8 games, and then boom, into the playoffs. So even in the playoffs, is it really crazy to think that, hey, LeBron pulled a hamstring in game 1 of the first round or game 2, or Kawhi, injured his elbow, falling hard or whatever, trying to run through a screen or something. It's not the most crazy thing since this situation is so unpredictable in itself. But if all things are equal, I would assume that the more talented teams find a way to get it done.
Yeah, and that's kind of where my head is at too. If you're the more talented team, you're gonna win these games. And if that's the case, then Denver should be able to win in the first round easily, in my opinion. But at the same time, it's hard to believe that. It's hard to believe that they could do that. So, all those other factors come in of, well, is their head in the right place? Will Houston all of a sudden, because, most likely, well, I guess it could easily change in 8 games, but could Dallas or Houston just come out on fire? And this is probably the most unpredictable final 8 games and playoffs in NBA history. And no matter who wins, there's going to be a massive, massive asterisk next to their championship, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. But if there was ever a season in which the Nuggets might have a sneaky chance, it's now.
Mm-hmm.
Because things are so unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. This is a young team who really, I'm sure, still would like to prove to everyone out there that, hey, what happened in Game 7 isn't us, and we want to be that Nuggets team that switches the narrative of, we're not going to just be good in the regular season and get to the playoffs and get bounced.
Right.
We're going to actually be good in the regular season. We're going to win a few series, and we're going to make some noise. So if there was ever a season, it would be right now, but it's all on the back of one guy, or should I say abs of one guy, allegedly, in Nikola Jokic. All right, I saw the pictures that he's skinnier. And then you hear from Tim Connolly
So
and Coach
those
Malone.
pictures
Oh,
were updated.
okay. And I
'Cause
didn't know at the time.
that's the one thing that we weren't sure about is
Right.
if those pictures were from 10 years ago
Yeah, years ago, his first
or
year when he got here because
right,
he was
because he was
skinny his
pretty
first
skinny.
year.
Yeah.
But you hear from Malone, you hear from Connolly. Oh, he's in great shape. And then Connolly comes out the other day. Was it Malone or Colin? One of the two. And he was
It
like,
was Connolly.
Nicola has abs. And I said, hold on, wait a minute, abs? Where? What do you mean? Did he mean flabs? Did someone type it wrong? Abs, like legitimate, like abs on his stomach, abs. So I don't know how true this is, but now it was picked up by ESPN too.
Yeah.
So now it better be true because if Nikola Jokic comes out there looking like Terrence Knighton Jr. and you could set a tray on that butt, then things are going to be, there's going to be some furniture moving. I better not see a fat Nikola Jokic on game one against, who are we playing game one? Whoever we play, game one. I better not see Jokic looking 275 plus. Okay. I better see him throwing 360 windmill dunks now if he's able to have abs. Because if you remember too, because during the season he lost, they said close to 20 between 20 and 30 pounds during the season, and he started to dunk a little bit more. I don't know if you noticed that, but he was dunking a lot more. And early in the season, and when he's been a little bit chunkier,
if Jokic came out with like
game one, win the tip, give it to me, Jamal, down the lane. I'm throwing it off the backboard and yamming that thing like Vince Carter and sticking my elbow in there. If he does that, I will lose my mind. I will lose it. But I mean, hey, I don't have to see, he doesn't have to be abs ripped and shredded.
No.
But if he's at least in shape and maintained what he was in before the season got suspended, that's fine for me.
Could you imagine though if Jokic got athletic? Like if he were to
it would be unfair. He's already the best big man in the league. It would just be unfair at that point. And it's a funny conversation too. And this is off topic, but a lot of people, the other center that people, I guess the other two is Karl Anthony Towns and Joel Embiid, but mainly Joel Embiid. And a lot of people say, oh, Joel's better, but the same thing that we criticize Jokic out here with the weight thing and does he want it, that's the same things that Philadelphia fans get on Embiid about. The talent is there, but sometimes it doesn't look like he's fully engaged. And then he looks a little chunky himself. But I never hear like the national media or like fans or people on Twitter that aren't Nuggets fans say, oh, Embiid is just a fat boy running around out there. He doesn't look like he wants. It's always on Jokic, which is fine. But if Jokic got athletic, I mean, let's say if he had the body of like, not necessarily Dwight Howard, because Dwight Howard in his prime, he had like his shoulders were essentially the size of my head. But if he was like a poor man's version of that, could you imagine Jokic just jamming on fools and putting his, I was about to say something bad, but putting his stuff in people's faces? Like, I mean, I would be shocked. I mean, he's already the most talented big man. He's already the best passer in the league. I mean, what he can do in the post. Now, that's where I'm a little bit concerned, though, because if he's skinnier, how does that affect his game in the post? Because it's kind of like
he throws that weight at that.
Exactly. When he gets, and you can tell when Jokic is feeling himself a little bit because he gets a little loosey. Guys push him, and he gets like loosey, and he's like jello-y. And then he's like, okay, now I'm gonna back you in a little bit, and you're like, oh god. And then that man just starts moving back, and then he hits you with a spin, and it's a layup. Now I'm concerned. It's almost like the same thing with I'm gonna compare it to like Von Miller.
Yeah.
When Von tried to bulk up, that's not Von's game. And what happened? He got hurt. Now Von's more of a slender guy. He's more speed and athleticism. It's the same thing with Jokic. His game is primarily based on power. Now he doesn't have to be morbidly obese and be on the verge of diabetes on the court, but he could still be a solid weight 275 and throw it around.
Right.
If he comes in looking 230 and he's chiseled, now I'm going to wonder if he can even back down like PJ Tucker on the block. So it's concerning, but you know what? Hopefully he's just in shape. That's all I want. Right. If he just maintained what he was before the season ended, that's fine for me.
Yeah, and like you said, that's kind of the main concern is if he's too skinny, like he was his rookie year, then that's not gonna work well. But I don't. I mean, I think too. I think you gotta kind of listen to the conversation. I haven't heard it, but was it more of a like a joking type of
Yeah.
like, oh, he's got
He
abs
has
type of,
abs.
or is it
Yeah.
like he's got abs?
Like, no, guys,
Um,
he's like shredded.
and here's the
Yeah.
thing too, if he's technically skinnier, but he put muscle on, then he should be just as strong. So it's I guess you just got to kind of see him and wait till he plays to find out. But that's gonna be probably the biggest. The second everything gets started, all the cameras are gonna be on him, 100% because of that comment.
This is the first time I've ever been extremely anxious to see another man's body. I'll just be real with you. I've never been so anxious and so nervous and scared to see some guy's body than I am when Nikola Jokic walks out onto the court.
Now, if he's too
And
skinny, then we both need to go over to Crumble Cookies, grab
listen,
a few boxes, and deliver.
I will risk my life for the cause. Yes. I will. If they were like, Steven, please come protect Nikola Jokic and be his bodyguard, I will fight viruses and fanboys and whatever I need to do. Oh my God. I will do whatever. If he needs a crumble cookie, what do you want? What's your flavor? I'll make you the cookies myself. It'll be an interesting time. And hopefully he's just in a shape to where he can dominate and be what we hope that he can be. Because I mean, last year we saw what he was able to do, and when he's at his best, I mean, no one can stop him. But when you look at these 8 games, if you had to like gut instant reaction when you look at the schedule for the Nuggets, how do you think they finish? How many do you think they win? Where do you think they end up in seeding?
I mean, for anyone doing this, you cannot be sure about whatever you say. It's a complete guess because you got to take out home court advantage. You got to take out fans. Someone could get sick. So anything can happen. And like I said earlier, I wouldn't be shocked if they went 7-1. I wouldn't be shocked if they went 1-7. Looking at it though, if we're just basing it off talent, and that's really all you take account for, they should beat San Antonio. They'll probably lose to the Lakers. They'll probably lose to the Clippers. So you're 1-2. Based on talent, you should beat Oklahoma City. You should beat Toronto. You're 3-2 there. Chicago didn't make it. Miami did. Based on talent, you should be able to beat Miami. Based on talent, you should be able to beat San Antonio and Oklahoma City. So, let's see. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that's your 8. So in my mind, if we're just looking at talent, they should go 6-2.
But you're so optimistic.
Well, that's based off talent.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, for sure.
Again, I mean, can Denver handle, not playing at home and not having that crowd behind them because they are a young team? Does that matter to them as much as, they always? It's funny. We always hear from players that the fans matter a lot, right? And home court matters. And national or other people outside of Colorado blaming it on the altitude and why Denver always has a good record because of altitude. Well, now we'll see. And so that's, I mean, for me, I think they can go 5-3. I don't think they'll go 6-2.
Yeah.
I think they can go 5-3. But that's trusting that they are right out of the gate ready to go and they beat San Antonio. If they're not and they take time, they're going to start 0-3. So
I think,
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to really get a grasp on like what this team is going to look like because there's so many more factors that go into how they're going to play than say the Lakers.
When I look at it and they get, San Antonio twice, obviously they get OKC twice. I think they split both of those. So I'll give them 2 wins off the bat, 2-2. I do think they lose to both the Lakers and the Clippers. So 2-4 there. I think they probably split Toronto and Miami as well. Best case, they finish 500, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's a 3-5, anywhere from 3-5 to 5-3. I mean, for me, if they get 4-4, 5-3, over the moon. That's fine with me. If you lose the Lakers, Clippers, and you lose one of those, OKC games,
Right.
or to Miami, whatever, fine. But at the bare minimum, at least get 3. That's all I want. And I don't know how many they need to retain, where they're at.
I mean, again, it depends on how Utah comes out, because they're a game and a half above Utah and they're 2.5 above Oklahoma City. So those Oklahoma City games are massive. Yeah. You have to win at least one of those. If you lose both of those, that puts you half a game ahead of the Thunder. That's it.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to lose to those two LA teams. So what does Oklahoma City's schedule look like? Is their schedule cake? Because if it is, they could easily go into the 3rd seed.
Let's see. OKC would be Utah first. Minnesota didn't make it. They'll have Washington. So Utah, Washington, Memphis is in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Utah, Washington, Memphis, Nuggets, Miami, Nuggets again, Phoenix, and LA. Is that 8 right there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes.
So if they beat Denver,
that Phoenix game, they would have had 2. If there was just 2 more games, it would have been the Clippers then the Lakers.
So if they beat Denver twice, let's just say, and let's say they lose, out of all those, they lose to like the LA, whoever they play the Clippers that last
game. So
they
would just miss out on the Clippers and the Lakers. That Phoenix game would be their 8th game. But after Phoenix, it was going to be Lakers.
So they don't play either of the LA teams.
No. Nope. It's just Utah, Washington, Memphis, Denver twice, Miami, and then Phoenix.
And do they play Denver back to back?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, well, hold on. Maybe they do. God, I suck at math. Okay, Utah 1. All right. Washington 2. Memphis 3. Denver 4. Miami 5. Denver 6. Phoenix 7. LA Clippers 8. There you go. So they'll get the Clippers.
Okay.
Very last one. Goodness gracious.
I mean,
that was tough. I'd use the fingers on that one.
If they beat Denver twice,
yeah,
I don't see them losing more than 2 games. So that means for Denver to hold on, they are 2.5 games ahead. So for Denver to hold on, they would have to go. Let's see. Oh wait, are they 2.5 or 3.5? Yeah, they're 2.5. So if Oklahoma City goes 6-2, Denver would have to go 4-4 to hold on to that 3 seed. They would have to go, if say Utah goes 6-2, then they would have to go 5-3. Same thing with Houston as Oklahoma City. They're the same amount of games behind. Dallas is 4 games, so they would have to go. Yeesh. Well, they might win the tiebreaker, because they're exactly 11 games. That's the thing with the Utah, Oklahoma City, Houston. If neither of those teams can tie Denver, so tiebreakers won't matter. They will either lose or win it. Dallas isn't even 4 games, so if Denver goes 4-4, I don't know if they win the tiebreaker or not, because they lost to Dallas twice, I think. So I think they would lose that tiebreaker. So I think Denver, if Dallas were to go, if Dallas were to go 8-0, Denver would have to go at least 5-3. So if
that's all I'll ask,
yeah,
I'll ask.
I mean, again, is Dallas going to go 8-0? Probably not.
No.
If Dallas goes 6-2, then Denver has to win at least 3 games. So that's kind of where we're at. Is they have to worry about staying in that 3 seed, and that means they have to win probably 4 or 5 games to hold on to the 3 seed. At least 4
Right.
I mean, that if you win 4 games, the thing is, I don't think Utah is going to do that well.
I don't think so
So
either.
I'm not, even though, so they're the closest and they're a game and a half. I don't think they win 2 more games in Denver.
Right.
Right. So I'm not really that scared. I'm scared of Houston and Dallas, to be honest. I'm not really that scared of Oklahoma City either. I don't think they're going to come out on fire because they're a pretty young team. I mean, they have Chris Paul, but I mean, mainly Houston and Dallas is who I'm scared of. And at that point, if you win 4 games, you should be good.
And as far since we're already on the subject, before we wrap, best and worst matchups in the playoffs for the Nuggets. Which matchup
Don't
would
want to
you
see
hate?
Dallas.
Okay, so Dallas is the one that scares you the most.
Yep.
Which one, ideally, if you could choose any of the teams for the Nuggets to get in the first round, who would it be?
Oh, Utah.
Yeah.
Memphis is probably out. Yeah, Memphis you can't get. So, yeah, easily Utah. If I wouldn't be upset if Utah fell to, or if Utah got hot and went to 3 and Denver was terrible and fell to 6, I actually would still pick Denver. I don't think they match up. I just that matchup for Denver is nice. I would rank it though out of those 4 teams because most likely Denver's gonna have to play one of those 4 teams in the first round, unless they completely fall apart and have to play the Lakers or Clippers. But let's say they don't, then there's a situation where Denver could get the 1 seed. But if I guess let's see, I would rank it Utah. I don't like Oklahoma City. Like I would go Utah, Houston, OKC, Dallas. Do not want to see Dallas. Would rather not see Oklahoma City. I would be fine with Utah or Houston.
Okay, that makes sense. I could see that. Now, there's not going to be a scenario in which they get the Memphis Grizzlies, but I would love that matchup. If we could somehow swing the Memphis Grizzlies or whoever pops into 8th.
If the Lakers go 0-8 and Denver goes 8-0, they get
or
the
if
1
the Memphis
seed.
Grizzlies rattle off like 6 straight wins, I'll take it. It's not going to happen.
Well,
but I would take that.
Memphis is 7 games behind Dallas.
Yeah, they're not going to do it. But
and
in an ideal scenario,
so the best case scenario for Memphis, they get up to the 7th seed.
Right. And the Nuggets would have to, somehow get to 2, which is possible. It could happen. You don't know. But that would be my first choice. Is Memphis. But that's a hard scenario to land, is getting the Grizzlies. If I had to choose, I would agree with you. Probably Utah. You look at that team. Not only do they lose Bogdanovic, who I mentioned earlier, but it's a team too that really has some internal turmoil, really, because the Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell thing, him kind of coming down with the virus and then not taking it seriously. You don't know if those relationships have necessarily been repaired. How is that going to affect them as they jump right into this part of the season and intensity of the playoffs, when really you need your team as a unit, functioning mentally, physically as one? You need that more than ever. So I don't know how they're going to be. So I would take Utah as well. And then when it comes to your OKC, Houston, and Dallas, I would rather not see any of those teams. But if I had to rank it in order, I'd probably go OKC. I'd rather see, Houston or Dallas. I think the Nuggets would have a better chance against Dallas than Houston, just because Houston, James Harden scares me. But
he can't beat you by himself. He can't. He can't. No, he can't.
I wouldn't try him. He'd say, hold my beer.
No one can.
Hold my beer.
The only guy that could probably beat Denver by himself is LeBron. Not even
Kawhi
Giannis could do it. We saw Giannis couldn't do it against 8 guys.
Well, that's you just need to pack the paint. I shouldn't say that. Giannis has gotten a little bit better at shooting. I don't know. Me preferably, I'd rather see Dallas because I don't think they're as lethal from 3. Now with Houston, it's more of a gamble because they could have games where they go completely cold, but they could also have games where they go, sun hot, white hot, and just shoot the lights out of that.
Yeah, but how you beat Houston is you basically you make Harden do it all by himself. You go 1-on-1 against Harden. You make sure you stay on those guys in the corners. They don't have anyone in the paint that can beat you. So you basically, I mean, it's if Harden can get to the paint every single time and score, I mean, great for him. If he goes out there and gets 60 to 80 points, you know,
could.
I mean, he
That's the
could,
thing.
but
You're
is he
gonna
going to do
roll
that?
through
But is he going to
defenders.
do that every game? Because you're going to wear him out.
No.
If you
Right.
make him do that and you stay on everyone, like right on everyone, and you make Harden beat you by himself, I mean, he might be able to get 1 or 2 games, maybe.
Well, and that's where that screen and roll comes in. That I was saying, whoever's Jokic is on, or Paul Millsap,
Yeah, but even
or
then,
Mason Plumlee.
let him score. He's not gonna score 100 points. He's not. I mean, if you make it
He
easy for
could.
him, if you just like, here you go, but they're not gonna do that.
I mean, he's one of the best scorers in the league, though.
I
And
know,
one of the
but
best foul
even-
drawers.
even if-
you have to keep that in mind.
I
as
know,
well.
I get it, but even if he's going 1-on-1 with the paint open, he's not gonna be able to score every single time.
Okay. I don't know. Me personally, I would rather face Dallas and Houston, but I don't feel great about it. It's not like I would, this team is I prefer them way more. Like either one of those
I'm
matchups,
terrified of Dallas.
I would still be scared of. And
I'm-
yeah, I mean, it's literally just Luka who terrifies
No,
you because
no, it's not
he
just
he
Luka.
takes that team to a level that
Yeah, but
is
they have
tough.
the bigs that the Lakers have too. That's one that Boban kills them every single
yeah,
time.
he should be outlawed. All right, unless we can get Bol on the court to at least somewhat nullify that. Like if you're over 7'8" or however tall Boban, the man just has to tiptoe to dunk.
I
Like
mean,
how
look,
is that a thing?
early in the season they lost to them 109 to 106, and then I believe they beat them. Yeah, they beat them 107 to 106 by 1 at Dallas, back on January 8th, and then they lost that final game, which, to be fair, was close until everything started to go chaotic. So, but in every game that you've played that it's been quote unquote normal, it's been close. It's been like a 1 or 2 point game. Because I remember watching that game. It was close all the way up until everything started to lose their minds. So that's like, I'm just, even at home, and I get it was only the 4th or 5th game of the season, 4th game of the season, but like every game's been close with them. You lose at home to them. You beat them by 1 in Dallas, and then the last game happened. So it's like Houston losing Capella hurts them in the sense of trying to beat Denver a lot because Capella killed them. So it's just I don't want to see Dallas. I don't. Like there's the 3 teams, and then there's a bunch of space, and then there's Dallas. Like I do not want to see Dallas. That's the last team that I want to see. Like I would rather, honestly, I would rather just watch the Clippers play Denver in the first round. Because not that Denver has
quick first round.
well, not that Denver has a better chance, but at least Denver will be able to get to play one of the LA teams and measure themselves up. Because just I have a feeling that within the next 2 years, Dallas is going to be a 1 or 2 seed. Like they're going to be there. So I don't want what happened to Golden State beating Denver happen with Dallas. Because that's the next team.
Yeah. They have the guy that could easily, if he's not already, be a top 10, top 7 player in the NBA here soon.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an interesting situation to watch. We're just glad that we get playoffs back. We're glad we get basketball back. First steps to somewhat getting back to normalcy. And I can't wait to see Jokic's abs. So hopefully that's a thing. But we want to thank you guys for tuning in today, whether you watched via YouTube or you're going to listen via one of the many platforms you can find us, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Overcast, and Radio Public. We thank you for tuning in. Any play we can get is greatly appreciated. Shout out to everybody international listening as well, even if it's by accident. We just thank you for listening. Again, for Brandon Stoll, I'm Stephen Priest. If you want to follow us on Twitter, at Brandon_Stoll for Brandon, at Stephen Priest Jr. for myself. Until Monday, We'll catch you guys then. It's been the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast.